We all have that idea of what it would be like to meet our picture perfect soul companion, that one perfect pet that's so much more than just a dog or a cat. But reality, well, reality likes to surprise us with tricks and triggers and even sometimes tragedies. And I'm Laura, and this is Button's story for Jacktra. You see, Buttons was not originally my cat. Originally, he was no one's cat. He was just one of the many kittens born to the feral cats living in the woods all around my daughter's house. And in early April of 22, my youngest granddaughter, Cass, was thrilled to find a whole litter of newborn kittens in the yard. But there was no mama in sight. So Cassie wanted to take them home. It was raining hard that day and she was worried, but her mother and sister didn't think they should bring the kittens in at the last minute before leaving for school. Still, Cass was nervous all day long in class, so that was the first place she went when she got home that afternoon. I was on the phone with her mother when Cass found them. They were all drowned. Cass was crying in the backyard, and my daughter had to hang up to comfort her. There were 5 kittens, and they all had to be buried because Cass would have it no other way. And my daughter felt bad for not letting Cassidy shelter them. So everyone pitched in to do what they could at that point. But then they heard it. From what Cassie told me later, they doubted what they were hearing at first, and they couldn't tell which of the kittens had made a noise. But then Buttons moved. It was a slight movement, but it was just enough to get their attention. So they quickly wrapped him up and took him inside. Luckily, they had a neighbor with kitten formula. Still, that little guy had no nursing strength, but Cassidy would not let that deter her. She found one baby alive and she was determined to keep him that way. The only problem was that she was 8. She had school and she was a bit young for all that responsibility. Still, he made it to the following weekend, and that weekend they brought him over to my house for Easter. I'd been hearing all week about this little guy, but my first sight, now that was absolutely heartbreaking. I offered to hold him while everyone else played volleyball, so I could try to feed him myself. Instantly, I could tell he was probably not going to make it. He was just too small, too weak. I mean, he was at least 5 days old. His eyes hadn't opened yet. He could barely suckle, and he didn't even weigh 90 ounces, but he was a love bug. I can still remember him burrowing down into my hand with the fake fur baby blanket I knitted for him. He loved that blanket, and I adored him. As weak and helpless as he was, he could sense me there, and he sought comfort from burrowing into my shirt. I could tell he was suffering, and he had ongoing problems with cold and shivering, and besides, I couldn't stand the thought of poor Cass coming home from school to find his body. So I offered to help him here at my house. I work from home, and if Buttons was going to make it, it would probably be with me. But still, that was an exhausting month. He was at least a week and a half old when he finally got to 100 grams and was nearly 2 weeks before he could suckle without help from the plunger of the syringe we used. If he woke up in the night, I woke up. Anytime he would eat, I made sure there was formula. And if I had anywhere I needed to go, I had my son take over for me. For 4 entire weeks, Buttons did nothing alone. The other cats were ready to mutiny, but little did they know. They were just going to have to get used to him because by the time we were sure he was going to make it, he wasn't going anywhere. He was my cat, and I was no longer the only caretaker in our family. Buttons was taking care of me. When I get frustrated and tired, it's almost as if Buttons can hear it in the way that I breathe, and he runs to comfort me. I call him my emotional support kitty, and I have never known an animal like him. He is so caring and involved with the entire family. Now, maybe that's because he never experienced life with his feline family. No one ever figured out what happened to his mother. But I like to think it's because he is our soul companion. That one special cohort meant to enrich our lives in a way that no other creature could ever do.